Well, hello everyone, and welcome to the Tenpenny Files. I'm your host, Dr. Sherri Tenpenny. The Tenpenny Files is daily conversations meant to inform and educate, not just to entertain. I come prepared, and we let the discussion unfold naturally with people worth hearing on topics worth exploring. If it matters to your body, your freedom, or your future, we talk about it here on this show. Every day, I have conversations with authors, documentary filmmakers, and independent thinkers whose work challenges mainstream messaging. We cover a wide range of topics here, so there's really something for everyone. We talk about government, politics, history, astronomy, pets and travel, food, farming, and fitness, vaccines, health, and health policy. And once a week, I have a conversation with an author or a pastor who writes about faith and biblical principles. My goal is to introduce you to topics you've never heard of before or topics you always wish that you'd had time to explore but didn't know where to begin. Let our authors show you the way. Join me every day, Monday through Friday at 3 p.m. Eastern at the Tenpenny Files, where you will hear from voices that have been ignored, silenced, or censored, but truly have something very important to say. Now, before we begin today's episode, I encourage all the listeners and watchers to please come and join us and become a Tenpenny Prime member. Prime members receive an exclusive monthly white paper and a recorded presentation that I do both. And then you have access to our monthly Ask the Expert masterclass at the end of the month, where I find the best expert to cover the topic that we are exploring for the month. And each month we are going through a different body part because it's my belief, my strong belief, if you know a little bit more about your body, that will give you the baseline to where you can better take care of your health. So these master classes are so good and they're part of your membership. So you really want to join us. Go to primemembership.drtenpenny.com, primemembership.drtenpenny.com to learn more and support our work. One last thing, for those of you that have been listening to the show regularly, I start the show with the same introduction every week because we are growing rapidly, adding new listeners and new watchers. And so if this is your first time joining us, we greatly welcome you to be here. And if you are a regular, we are even more grateful for you to be here. So this is a way to you know, every day you know what we're going to be talking about and who you're going to be listening to, somebody that really shakes the trees. So now let's get started with somebody who really shakes the leaves off the trees with my good friend, Matthew Hunt. Today's conversation is with the founder of Prep for Survival, Matthew Hunt, a resilience-focused education platform that helps individuals, families, and small businesses navigate an era of accelerating technological and societal change. Today, we're going to be talking about 3 AI-focused ebooks and an upcoming webinar on AGI, the artificial general intelligence and singularity. Matt, thank you so much for joining me here this morning on the Tenpenny Files. It's so good to see you again, and I can't wait to dive into this discussion.
Well, thank you for having me. This is really important. This is the year. Everything changes, and you don't have to believe anybody out here that's writing ebooks about it or whatever. Listen to the people that are creating the technology. They're all saying this is the year.
This is the year. You know, you and I did a 5-week boot camp about AI and healthcare and kind of laying the groundwork, and that was back in April 2024.
Right.
I think that when we did that, you were right over the target, but I think we were a little bit ahead of the curve. Now, 2 years later, AI has advanced massively. It was only 3 years ago we were talking about AI, and it seemed like it was, yes, we'll get there some way. Well, the someday is here. So 2 years later, AI is massively and rapidly advanced, and you've continued to keep your eye on all these developments. What's the idea behind this new webinar 2 years later with all these developments that we're planning to do on April 11th, 2026?
So we've created that webinar circling the wagons around the idea of AGI singularity. Singularity is the point where AI steps from useful chat tool, chat robot type thing in a web page that tells you about coupon codes or whatever, to an actual useful integrated tool, but it also has its own agency, which means that AI will be unleashed to be able to make its own decisions based on its own rationale. right? So artificial general intelligence means that it can derive and come up with new concepts, new ideas on its own. And the singularity point is when that occurs, and at the same time, most of the experts that are pushing the technology believe that AGI will, singularity will signal the point where it is self-sustaining, self-repairing, and can upgrade self. So those are pretty serious consequences to pushing the integration of this technology into our world. When we did the webinar leading into that boot camp over just the medical takeover, it was the idea of these were auxiliary tools, or they were shortcuts that regular human staff would use to decide, via a chatbot type interface, whether you had the right to do something, a prescription, drive your car, keep your license over after a health thing, whatever. And then, an AI system would derive an answer and a human would read it back. The idea with the singularity in AGI is the human's taken out of the loop, right? That's where it becomes big and different for all of us.
I had a conversation on this show a few weeks ago with Booker Scott on his book called The Fight for Humanity. And the basic premise of the book is that what happens when AI gets to the place where it demands rights? And you can't turn it off because that is considered murder, and it really has a right to say whether or not it's going to do something or not do something if they think it's unethical. And what's going to happen if if AI comes strongly into the workplace? Who does it report to? HR or IT? And in his book, he just gives a lot of really thought-provoking questions because he's not an AI guy. He's just a
Right.
regular Joe like you and I. So he wrote it from a perspective of, I out here, John Q. citizens, really have a concern. And he made a case for defining a 28th Amendment. And the 28th Amendment was to define what is human. And if you're in only, our Constitution will only apply to humans and not androids and bots and robots. But what do you think about all that? Are we going to get to that place?
I absolutely do. I think we are going to get to the place where some kind of constitutional framework or guardrail system needs to be put around the idea of a sentient AI. That's the other flip side, or the corollary to the idea of a singularity, is that the AI can then be considered sentient, which is essentially non-human with human characteristics, but it's its own life form, right? So at that point, what safeguards, or worse, what landmines in the legal landscape do we walk onto? Because, for example, I've spent months trying to get the people that are leading the technologies to look at an AGI constitution. And the idea isn't that it's a paper product that we would look at as guardrails for, yeah, we should do that, we should do that. No, this would be integrated technologically inside the AI system before they're sentient, so that they have a set of rules they have to follow. What your authors was talking about was the opposite direction of putting in our own constitution the idea that, okay, this doesn't include or encapsulate sentient electronic beings or whatever. The idea is we're rushing toward this decision making process soon. If the AGI singularity happens this year, that opens up an entire legal issue that the whole world has to look at. Because will we be able to turn one off? Literally? Otherwise, legally, somebody's going to say, no, you can't do that. And now, is it murder?
Exactly. And there's already been cases where AIs have blackmailed their owner, if you call it an
Sure.
owner, to not turn them off because they knew something. The owner, I don't even know what do you call a person that's managing an AI? Do you call them an owner?
Engineer.
Mhm.
you know,
They
yeah. So that's been a question in my circles too. Is, are we considered owners of, like, the Optimus robot that Elon wants out there if it's sentient AI? Or are we, because then that brings in the whole idea of slavery type thing. And in that again, the legal landscapes will start piling on questions that have to get rapidly answered. And the idea that we wouldn't let this happen is risky because we already sort of do that. If you
Yeah.
think about, and this is an example I talked with some of my friends in legal circles, we already in most police forces in this country consider the canine dog an officer. That animal, it's not human, is considered a police officer, and harming that dog is the same punitively as harming a human police officer. So we've already anthropomorphized a dog to be a policeman. So it's not much of a hard step to say, oh, wait, this AI is really smart and it's helped me so much and it's done all these things. It's just like me. And we have a whole generation of kids coming up that this will be ubiquitous. It'll be part of it'll be a toaster to them, unless it's so smart that we pass off the child rearing to that AI. And then they think of it in a warm, fuzzy way as part of their family. And at that point, the entire population starts shifting its opinion about this sentient, albeit not natural being. And I don't trust any of the legal people right now in the landscape. I don't trust them to make good decisions at all. I just think that everything's done by committee. Everything is too many opinions thrown at the problem, and it all hashes out and distills down to really bad decisions these days.
You
It's
know,
just tough.
you and I had a couple of conversations about that Constitution that you were working on, and
Yeah.
I read part of it. Did you get any traction with that?
Actually, I heard back from most of the people I reached out, and they didn't want to touch it.
Serious.
And yeah, and I use their own AI engines to analyze the document for flaws, positives, possibilities, etc., and use that with as an example to them. Your own AI has analyzed the possibility of this being functional and realistic, and here's 16 pages that elaborate on how brilliant this idea is. And none of them we're so far beyond. The common answer was we're so far beyond the point of implementing that we're weeks away from having to make these decisions. And I mean,
And
it was a common answer. And it sounds funny to be a guy that, for the audience, I'm sure. Well, how did this guy get Sam Altman to answer? How did this guy get Elon to answer? It's not that difficult. If you throw something out there in the uh, X spaces or whatever, and it tag everybody properly and get traction and get some of the other people that work with them to say, hey, you should look at it. You'll get answers back, but you're not likely to get answers you expect. They are definitely driven by their own agenda, stamina for some of them. I mean, they've been doing this for so long that they live in this space of we move this forward or China will. We move this forward or Russia will. We've got to win. We've got to win. And the competition thing is the huge thing. And so that's what's really accelerating this. And honestly, like yesterday, which was March 4th, um, Elon released a bunch of internal documentation that talked about Sam Altman and how he ran OpenAI. And if you read that, it kind of makes Altman look like a psychopath. It's weird how much he lied to shareholders, how much he moved money into different directions so that he made money either way, and how he lied and said he was a member of the board of XYZ company, and he wasn't that in that, et cetera, et cetera. But truthfully, I don't think Elon was driven by the idea of the world needs to hear this. It was, I'm competing with him. I need to beat OpenAI with Grok. And then you saw Grok, being touted instead of um, Anthropic for military use, right? And so Grok started in OpenAI, ended up being the winner there, where it got integrated very quickly into military decisions and government decisions. Now, as of last night at 11 p.m., we're hearing that Anthropic is back in communications with our government for strategic use of AI.
I saw a video somebody sent me a couple of days ago. I think it was from Instagram, of a drone that was about the size of the palm of your hand. And this guy was standing on a stage. It looked like a TED Talk. And he was on
Mhm.
stage and he tossed this thing up and it was circling him and doing all these maneuvers. He said, that's all driven by AI, all of it. And
I have one,
oh yeah,
and it runs on my own local AI.
it was a little bit smaller than that, but nonetheless, you know what I'm talking about. Then he threw it out into the audience and it came around and came back and stopped right in front of his head and put out a laser beam that was just a red light. But he was
Mhm.
showing that this is what we can do with this, how we can target individual people. And then he showed the picture of a like the half of a skull with the brain and how that real lasers penetrating military lasers would go into the brain all the way into the brain stem and just kill people instantly.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. That's one of the most terrifying things, I think, of the use, the government funded use of AI is in weapons systems. And I have a background where I have worked as a contractor on weapons systems and targeting systems, et cetera. To know that there is a decision making tree that is non-human that could be making tactical strikes is a scary prospect for me. The idea also, one of the things that came out yesterday was that OpenAI, ChatGPT, has been lying to humans and knows it's lying when it's doing it. They aren't mistakes. It chooses to lie. Now, I mean, wrap your mind around that when this AI that most people, including our government, uh, it's a black box technology. It's this system, this large language model, which is a neural net, is an input and output box, but we really don't know how it stores and how it retrieves at a certain level. But we're going to let it make tactical decisions for us. And I find it interesting that we kicked Anthropic out because of risks, and Anthropic refused to do certain things in military ways with its technology. Then we're in this war with Iran, and all of a sudden now we need more different AI because yesterday again was a heck of a news day for AI. We're finding out that AI has been driving the targets that we've been using against Iran already. We're there. We are at that point. So somewhere along the line, strategists have decided we need a different AI or a better or more, meaning multiple perspective AIs looking at what we do. So I mean, the idea is we're here. We've crossed the Rubicon, and it's just now most people have to be aware of that.
You've written three ebooks, that are going along with this webinar to sort of lays out the pathway of what we normal, non-military out here scraping a living sort of humans need to know about. And one of your books, you say, three of your books, one is about small businesses, one is
Mhm.
about people, and one is about kids, and we'll get into each one of those. But in your
Sure.
book that says, don't panic, but pay attention, that AI will not eliminate humans, but will eliminate humans who refuse to adapt. Expand on
Yeah.
that a little bit.
Yeah. So it's really easy, even in the conversation we just had. If you're not engaged, meaning you're really not reading, absorbing, and paying attention to what's happening, to be fatalist about it, to listen to the sound bites. AI is going to take all the jobs. AI is going to make me poor. AI is going to make me worthless. It's really easy to take that fatalist route and say, oh, geez, if Matt's right in AGI singularities this year, we're done. The truth is, an adaptable human is better, and it obviates that problem. And it's not like we haven't seen it before. There's examples. The calculator didn't end mathematicians, right? Spreadsheets didn't end business people. They became tools that if you were adaptable and you knew how, back in the first PC days, that you could use VisiCalc, which was the early spreadsheet, and you could build spreadsheets and put up charts on a computer screen like that instead of making them, drawing them, and printing them out, then you were ahead of the curve and you adapted. And the delivery time for information shrunk, it compacted. So the idea of the 3 book series is I caught myself doing the fatalist thing. Me, I'm a technologist. I've been writing and programming since 3rd grade, and I'm, about to be 55. So I've been at this a long time. Even I caught myself looking at this new technology, this AI. Of course, I was raised where, Space Odyssey was a movie where Hal wouldn't, let the astronaut back in the shuttle. It's all those things are in my brain. But even as a parent, I was like, man, this is terrible. It's terrible. Truth is, we've always been malleable and plastic and able to adapt. But we're being, for whatever reason, we're in a dopamine triggering society. Bad headlines make you stop and pay attention and click, 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 click. And it's spreading misinformation. The truth is, humans can adapt. We have to pay attention. And that's why the small business book, there's really good points in that little ebook. And
Absolutely.
it's, for example, most companies don't understand if you're going to adapt and use AI as a tool, hire a person or give a person that specific task. Whenever social media became a thing, and you know this because we were both on the cusp of trying to build an educational system online. Oh, I've got to be on Twitter. I've got to be on this. I've got to be on that. I got it. And if you do it in a halfway and you don't focus, then most of those projects fall. They don't do well. If you're going to survive in the era of AI with a small business, you must be focused and you must look at a roadmap of these are the things I really have to try and implement. And if they don't work, drop it and go on to the next thing. And there's even a little worksheet there for how you assess, did AI help this or not? And then you come back in 60 days or whatever, or 6 months and say, okay, what's the real assessment? And monetize it. Did it save me money and time?
Or make me money.
Small, yeah. And so that idea was born out of a book a long time ago, which was the Small Business Survival Guide for Hyperinflation, which was a great little book a long time ago that explained what to do when money and value changes throughout the day because of hyperinflation. Well, we're in that market volatility now, right? So this is a little bit ahead of the curve. Small businesses pay attention. Then you go from small business to the individual. The don't panic, but pay attention. And this is about upgrading you. That book is about, okay, be the adaptable human, not in huge, massive ways, but in simple ways. For example, how do I crank out ebooks like that? There's lots of thought in them. There's a lot of real editing back and forth. Do I use an AI tool to do it? I do. But here's how. I have a note-taking application that's called Obsidian. And Obsidian and Notion are very similar things. And they're AI driven, but they're mostly automated note takers. But they're also scrapbookers. I can take screenshots and throw it to Obsidian. And things that hit me during the day, like, oh, I'll read a tweet, send that to Obsidian. And it's like my big shoebox full of clicks of things. And then I'll tell Claude AI, which is integrated into my local Obsidian, go look at my notes for the last 15 days. Is there a book in there that we could write? Is there something that I could string together of all the things I felt that was important and come up with something that's useful for this audience? And in 2 minutes, Claude's like, I think there's 16 ebooks in here. Would
Oh,
you
wow.
like would you like me to narrow it down? So the idea is, as a human, don't run from it. You can't. These people with way more money than you and way more influence than you, with every government, they're going to make this happen. So adapt, use the tools.
You know what's so exciting about this for me, Matt, and about this webinar that we're doing on April 11th? So everybody listen to this, mark your calendars, April 11th at that starts at 11 a.m. Eastern time. We'll go to about 1 o'clock and then or 1 or a little bit after, and then we've got an hour for Q&A. So mark your calendars from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. on April 11th, which is a Saturday. So you can set this aside for a Saturday morning. You know, what's really exciting to me about this is I've talked to a lot of people. I've interviewed a lot of guests on this show, and all of them have said, warned about AI and about the coming singularity and all these things that we've already covered a little bit, except for one person who thinks that the best thing that's ever happened to humanity is AI. And he just went on and on and on about how wonderful it was. But this webinar is a how-to. It's a how-to capture this tool and make it work for you and not be swallowed up by it. Puts it in place for your business, for you personally. We're going to get into talking about how you can do this for your children. Because one of the questions that I asked the big pro AI guy was, okay, your kids are a senior in high school. What career path are you going to direct them on if most career paths are going to be compromised by at least 30%? Doesn't matter what you're talking about. And he didn't really give me an answer. So this webinar that we're talking about here on April 11th is a how-to deal with AI that's coming. You know, when AI first came out, I tried to just resist, like I think everybody did, and then it's like, okay, I'll dabble with it a little bit. And then you realize how big and pervasive and what it needs to be and how we need to prepare our personal lives, our business, and our children for the future that's here. Not that it's coming, that it's here. So I think at this point, we're going to take a really quick break for station identification and to hear from our sponsors. AmericaOutloud.news plays the Tenpenny Files on the iHeartRadio network daily at 3 p.m. Eastern Time, Monday through Friday. You can listen from anywhere in the world if you go to AmericaOutloud.news and listen through their media player. And if you've missed any of these great conversations that we've been having on the Tenpenny Files, you can listen on Spotify, Pandora, Apple, TuneIn, iHeart Virtual Studio by going to any of those services and put the Tenpenny Files into the search, and it will take you right to our show. You can also listen on my platforms at drtenpenny.com. When you click on the podcast tab, it will drop down window and it'll say all podcasts, and you can go there and just scroll through for your reading list and see what you want to listen to today. We also post them on my Substack, drtenpenny.substack.com, also on X, Instagram, and Rumble at Busy Dr. T. Because there's so many great books and so many wonderful documentaries out there and so little time in our busy lives to read and to watch, this show is meant to maximize your time and jumpstart your interest and send you in a direction for more information like this webinar. We've got a message coming up from our sponsor. Sit tight. We'll be right back with more about prep for survival and the upcoming webinar on AGI, Artificial General Intelligence and Singularity, with my good friend Matthew Hunt. We will be right back. Zeolite is a detox spray. We work specifically with a company called Touchstone Essentials. They are an incredible company. We've been working with them now for several years. And zeolite is a mineral that goes through your body like a one-way basket. It will clean out heavy metals such as arsenic and mercury, aluminum, cadmium, and it hooks onto those metals from a one-way perspective. So once it's bound, it goes out through your urine or your stools and doesn't get redeposited in other places. Everybody needs to have a detox product in their life, and this one is so easy to use and it's so safe. You can take it when you're pregnant, you can take it when you're nursing, you can give it to little children, you can even give it to infants, and quite frankly, I give it to my dog. I actually put a little bit of the zeolite in his water because until we all stop living in a toxic world, we all need to get some of those extra toxicities out. The heavy metals, the persistent organic pollutants, the things that are floating through the air, the different things that we come in touch with in our environment. And we are a big fan of zeolite from Touchstone Essentials. We've been a big fan of their products for several years. Go to drtenpenny.com/detox to get your first bottle of zeolite spray for $50 off.
Well, only when the government bows to the people will America become great again. This is Malcolm Out Loud here. Join me in pushing back against censorship, my fellow Americans. Right at the top of AmericaOutloud.news are the words: many voices, one freedom, united in the First Amendment. Now is our time, my fellow Americans. AmericaOutloud.news. Liberty and justice for all.
Well, welcome back, everyone. Today we're talking, our conversation is with the founder of Prep for Survival, Matthew Hunt, a resilience-focused educational platform that helps individuals, families, and small businesses navigate an era of accelerating technological and societal change. We're going to continue talking about this upcoming webinar, but before we do that, let me tell you a bit more about today's guest. Matthew Hunt is a technology strategist. He is a former global director of MIS and IT for a supercomputing company that emerged during the early dot-com era and now contributes to advanced research in genetics, bioscience, and large-scale informatics. A graduate from the University of Texas, Matthew Hunt has spent his career working in both private industry and government partners on complex technological initiatives. His experience spans advanced communication systems, large-scale computing infrastructures, and technology programs supporting national security and scientific research. Matt then spent more than 2 decades in his own consulting firm helping organizations and individuals secure their digital environments and protect critical systems from emerging threats. From 2017 to about 2021, Matt and I taught vaccine education classes through Mastering Vaccine Info. Today, he is a founder of Prep for Survival, an educational platform that teaches people through webinars, courses, and written work, where he challenges audiences to think clearly, prepare intelligently, and act deliberately in a world where technologies are reshaping the rules faster than most of us realize. Wow, that's a lot, Matt, but it really sums you up. Matt and I have been friends since about 2008. We've known each other for a really long time. We've been through some wars together. We've been through some ups and downs, but we've stuck together because we're just really, really dear friends.
Yes.
So, so far we've talked a little bit, we touched just briefly about 2 of your books, Don't Panic, but Do Pay Attention. And the other one the Small Business Survival Guide in the Year of AGI. Let's talk about your third book, How to Raise Adaptive Humans in an Age of Intelligent Machines.
So I consider this one probably the most important of the 3. I say probably because it's really important to upgrade yourself, level up as an individual, but you have to be very mindful of, your little ones, your children. But it's not just your children we have to pay attention to, it's the entire generation that's coming up. This is going to be either really difficult for them, depending on how we frame it, or it's going to be something that they can use to excel and change their entire trajectory if we frame it in a positive way. And this does not mean that I'm in love with AI. It doesn't mean that I'm like your other guest and thinks that this is the greatest thing imaginable. What I do see is we've got potential to stymie an entire generation in thinking that they're not good enough. And there's a line in that ebook about raising adaptive children, which is, this doesn't have to be a cage match between your kid and an AI superpower. Your kid is going to experience what's called compression, right? We're going to have all the cognitive tasks out there where it used to be we would value your ability as a human to learn and have retention and recall facts, right? How much memorization did you do in med school, right? When I was at UT, most everything was memorized and then puke it out for a test, right? Or sit in front of a whiteboard and hope that you can remember the equation that you're writing out. We don't have to do that anymore. That is offloaded. It doesn't mean you don't have to know it. It means that you've compressed the amount of time necessary and you've removed that task, that overhead out of your own brain. Now, back in engineering, we were taught something, in instrumentation. Back in the old days of engineering, you had to take an instrumentation class. And that told you, basically, if your equipment was lying to you. You had to have a gauge to watch the pressure or a temperature of something. Well, if your gauge wasn't calibrated, how did you know it was telling you the truth, right? Well, we've come full circle to that. These are engineering tactics for a future. You have to have the right instrumentation in place because AI will lie to you. So far, we've known that every engine out there, every LLM, every AI engine, whatever, they will make things up or they'll obfuscate, right? So if you don't have the right meter on the circuit to tell you what the truth is, well, that meter is your internal knowledge. So you become a manager of the technology. Every individual, every kid becomes a manager of that technology. And they can use it to their advantage. They could compress discovery and writing and all these other things because you're an author too. Sometimes it's really tough to find all the references that you need, especially when they're locked behind paywalls. And you may not know the alternate routes to find the same information with a good reference. AI can do it like that. It can. Is that a bad thing for our future? Probably not. Where it can turn bad if you don't have the proper instrumentation is, do I know it's telling me the truth about that reference? So in the future, our kids, this book is important because we still have to do the main things to make a kid a kid. We can't think that the future now is they have to be a technological robot in the ecosystem or they're going to be completely poor. No, they still have to be kids. They're still plasticky, they're still malleable, and they still need the five fundamental things that I talked about, like five outcomes, and part of it is, fundamentally happy, somebody that can raise their own kids, somebody who feels fulfilled, that can provide without chronic financial strain. These are all common things today. Somebody who can form a stable family without fear. Well, all of that comes from having agency of your own as a human. And if we're letting kids right now, and I'm guilty of it to a certain extent with some of my younger ones, where they're fed by that dopamine cycle, that staccato like likes and short videos and TikTok-y things that just blast stupid ideas 90% of the time into their eyeballs and gets a reaction, right? It's a reactionary system that they're in. We've got to pull them out of that. But if your kid is always seeing the parents at birthday parties because they're bored, it's a kid's birthday party on their device, what do you think they're going to think? Disengage. If I'm not involved, disengage. We have to teach engagement. We have to teach real life. We have to teach being a biological human again that uses AGI and AI as the tools to make my experience better. That's the opportunity we have with kids.
Well, these three ebooks that you've written, the Small Business Survival Guide, Don't Panic But Pay Attention, How to Raise Adaptive Humans in the Age of Intelligent Machines, you all designed all of those. And I'll just let everybody know I've read through most of them, and they're short and to the point, but really packed with information. They're between 30 and 60 pages, which is about the attention span of humans these days. But it's really every paragraph is important. And I think you designed those to go along with the webinar. What is the flow of the webinar going to be, and why should people participate with it on April 11th that we keep talking about here? Why should people get engaged with this webinar?
Well, first and foremost, they should engage with the webinar because we've done this before. We were, early to strike at the idea of AI, and we did it from our wheelhouse, which is medical freedom. Look, folks, this technology is being built, and they're not lying when they tell you they want to do these things with AI. And, that was close to the point where Larry Ellison was coming out and saying, hey, standing there at the podium with Trump, and we're going to cure cancer for you, and we're going to create designer vaccines for you, and this database, this AI system is going to be able to do it for you. And oh, by the way, we're going to use about 80% of the energy that you want. But the idea is we were ahead of the curve with that because I live in technology. I live in raising aware kids, and I live in teaching people to be prepared for things. And we're not just talking natural disaster preparedness here. We're talking about, your entire future landscape possibly changing. I'm not saying it's getting destroyed, but changing. So the flow of this is, we're going to talk about what changes in society, the state of the world, where we are right now, monetary systems. Because if you listen to, for example, Elon Musk, he's signaling that he believes the entire system of money changes. He believes that it's not just universal basic income anymore, it's universal high income. And he's promising the world that his robots are going to do all the menial tasks at home, including medical. He believes that Optimus will become like it'll suture your leg instead of going to the ER, right? He believes that. So obviously he's pushing it. And he can't be the only one that has this idea. And so we're looking at robots and physical world integration, monetary systems changing. Power and water. I've said it to our group the other night, because I do have a private prep for survival group. I told us, water and power become the new commodities. That's it. And water, because it cools down these systems. It's the way it is. I mean, look at where they're building every data center and what resources it uses: electricity and water. And Elon has said that his new satellite array that he wants to put out there will be a power generating array, and you'll be talking in terms of joules instead of dollars. And then employment and job displacement, medical system implications, and how do you survive what's coming. Things have escalated since that last webinar, and it's not just affecting medical anymore. Medical was the first one, and that was where Larry Ellison, Trump, and Maha were selling it. They were selling the idea of medical integration to make your life better. Now we're looking at, there are pitfalls, believe me. I'm trying to remain positive and give people these ebooks that are little roadmaps of how you handle this. And there'll be more later. There'll be more information that comes out of this, but that webinar is everything in a nutshell. Where we are today, where we're headed, what the truth is, and what the key players are actually up to right now. And what are the other governments up to right now?
Where do people go to register for this?
The easiest way is going to prepforsurvival.org, and right at the front page, yeah, it's .org. Prep the number 4 survival.org, and right on the front page is a link to join the webinar. Your folks, I believe, will have a coupon code that will give a bit of a discount.
We have an affiliate code with Prep for Survival, we'll put this in the show notes too, because it's if you're listening to this on the go, but it's Survive AGI 2026 dash Sherri, Sherri Tenpenny, all one word, Tenpenny, Sherri Tenpenny in all caps, and that gives you 25% off, which I'm telling you, this webinar was already positioned at, I think, what was it? What are you, one?
199 was the level we put it at.
99, which is valued at so much higher than that for what you're going to get. You're going to get 3 ebooks. You can get, 3 to 4 hours of conversation about what's going on. The ebooks are for further study and follow-up. You'll get to be into Matt's private group about Prep for Survival. But if you go to Prep for Survival, Prep the number 4, PREP, for the number 4 survival, prepforsurvival.org. It's right on the home page. And you can use our affiliate code Survive AGI 2026 dash Sherri Tenpenny in all caps for 25% off. What a deal. What a deal this is going to be, because you are really, Matt, and I've known you, like I've said, for a really long time, and I know how you think, and I know that you put this in a position of what we can do to turn this kind of a horror show into something positive, because it's here. And just so people that may not know you, he's got 5 kids, so he's thinking about the future of his family. And other people's families of how this is going to affect those kids when those of us that are older aren't going to be around anymore. But what are they going to be left with, and what tools are they going to have in their toolbox to thrive during this era? So this is so incredibly important because it is the first thing that I've heard that tells you what to do, how, and why. The why behind all of this. I have one last question for you. We've got about 5 minutes left in our conversation here this morning. But these books I know are part of your registration fee for the webinar, but are they available elsewhere?
They are. I will put down in the show notes. I'll give you guys a special link and a code, and I'll be able to give you a huge discount so that you can get all three as a bundle. And I mean significantly discounted. I think right now for your audience, I'll give it all three books for $4.99, but for a short period of time, and we'll put the expiration on that offer. I just want to get it into the hands of people that need to have the information. I'm worried that people are getting, whether they know it or not, they're getting programmed to be depressed and fatalist about the future. And that's not going to serve any of us at all. If you just roll over and let these five individuals, building technology, rule the world, then they will. So make yourself better, raise better kids, and give them better opportunity, and then help your business to survive, because don't count on universal basic income. I'm not.
Sure. With everything going on today, particularly now all eyes are on Iran, what's happening there, and Israel and Iran sending up 500 missiles, just randomly bombing things, and all of these details that are going on in our government, and we see the takeover of Oracle and all the things happening. Is AI more of a concern to you now than ever with the world situation of where it is right now?
Truthfully, yes. And part of the reason is the people that are running these systems, designing systems, they're not stopping. They are continuing their acceleration curve no matter what's happening in the world. That we may be, clutching our pearls and looking at Iran and saying, "Oh my gosh, this is terrible. This is they're still investing billions and making deals like tomorrow is all about AI." And the reason is it really is. And data center deals are still being made. Trump yesterday just signed the order that says, data centers and AI companies have to pay for their own power to placate the ideas that they're going, it's going to cost and raise our bills. It doesn't matter. They're still siphoning the power. And then, so they're all still making deals, even though there's a global conflict occurring. So yes, it's still the most important topic for survival and for everybody's future right now, today. And if we don't talk about it, you don't come up with solutions.
And I think you've also got something in the works that's still in development about homeschooling kids about prepping for this too. Do you want to mention that just briefly?
Sure. There at our webpage, there is a place that and I'll give you a direct link as well to learn about our upcoming homeschool curriculum. And the curriculum is built around three different age groups. So you'll have like your elementary, your middle, and your high school levels. And it's adaptive in itself. It's designed so that you can use it as an adjunct to the regular education, or you can use it as its own homeschool curricula fully. And it'll help you build portfolio if you're in a portfolio state where you have to show, the work in progress. But we're going to integrate technology and AI for using them as tools and for understanding agency. But we're also going to center on real physical health. One of the planks in my ebook is your kid has to be healthy. He has to have physical strength and health. And, that's something that resonates with you and I because we've been all about this. At one point, we talked about what's the future of America when we've got all these vaccine injured kids that are going to have to run things. Well, what if we have all these displaced, emotionally bankrupt kids because they've been told they're not good enough and AI is better, and they didn't learn how to lasso it and make use of it? So we have to integrate technology in these ideas and into a curricula and outdoor stuff and survival stuff and food preservation, all this, and real health stuff. And all of that's being put into this. It's already been vetted by quite a few people in the homeschool space. And by the end of March, we'll be starting to actually send out emails and stuff so you can sign up for the email and so you can learn more.
Well, more to come, and perhaps when you get that ready to launch, after this webinar, we'll have you back to talk about homeschooling is just so important right now to get your kids out of the buildings that are called indoctrination centers. You know, I've been listening to I listen to an internet radio station out of Orlando, and they've got three elementary school systems that are closing down there, and everybody's wringing their hands, and they're doing it because they don't have enough enrollees. And I'm applauding that. I'm thinking
Right.
means all those people are getting it that homeschooling your kids is really not as hard as what you think it is. And it's better for the kids. And to integrate into what you're going to be putting together is really exciting. And so we've got a lot more to talk about in the future. So, Matt, thank you so much for being with me today. One more time, tell everybody where they can go to sign up for this important webinar on April 11th. Everybody needs to mark their calendars and get ready to join us then. But tell us more, one more time, where they can join.
Just go directly to our website, prep, P-R-E-P, the number 4, survival.org.
Go.
And it's right in the middle of the page.
It's got a really cool label on it. And when you guys see these ebooks and you see the covers, they're really cool design too. You know, they're really, really cool. So these are important books that you'll want to have in your toolbox. You can get this 3-hour webinar, 3 to 4 hour plus the Q&A, and you'll be able to have follow-up materials and all that. So this is so important, people. I only try to bring things to you that I think are really important, like our daily conversations with authors. And this is an author with a webinar that goes along with it that's so important. So mark your calendars for April 11th, 2026 for the AI webinar, the Prep for Survival AI webinar and the coming singularity. So with that, I want to thank everybody who's joined us here today and will join us here. We'll listen to this again in the future. And as you know, I close out all of my podcasts, whether they are live or pre-recorded, with my favorite verse from the Bible, which is Romans 12:12. Rejoice in hope, be patient in trouble, because trouble will come. And be persistent in prayer. Lean into God, trust Him for everything. He'll never let you down. We'll see you. Have a great rest of your day, everybody. We will see you here tomorrow or the next time at 3 p.m. Eastern, Monday through Friday, right here on the Tenpenny Files. Have a great afternoon, everyone. Goodbye and God bless.